Welcome to Doctor Who Fights. Today, we're looking at the Series 12 finale, The Timeless Children, versus the Series 9 finale, Hell-Bent. Let's start with Timeless Children. So this episode came out in March 2020, and so I did not watch it for basically 5.5 years after it came out, because I remember when it came out and I saw all the reviews saying how this episode ruins the canon and everything, and so I just couldn't be asked. I just really didn't want to get pissed off by Doctor Who, so I did not watch this story. However, a couple weeks ago, as I was catching up with more Ncuti Gatwa episodes, it got me curious, and I was like, I wonder how the Timeless Child kind of executes its plot. I know what happens. I know what freaking canon-ruining thing happens to the plot, but I want to see if they executed it pretty entertainingly. So that made me curious, so I watched Timeless Child for the first time a couple weeks ago, and what did I think? I was decently surprised and happy with the episode overall, which is very surprising, and I'm glad that I felt that way. I did like the sort of war-torn setting that the companions are in. It felt like the writer made sure to really give all three of them at least one great moment. And the stuff on Gallifrey where the Master is facing off against the Doctor, that had to be my favorite part about the episode. And the inclusion of the Cybermen, like getting turned into regenerative Time Lords, that just made the story that much more entertaining. It had stakes, it had tension. I was really gripped onto what was happening. So like the sort of lore building with Tech Teyun and the Timeless Child, like that felt like not that big of a deal. It felt like a small part of the story. Similar to how the multiple unseen Doctor reveal in The Brain of Morbius felt like a very small part of the story, you know? Sacha Dhawan as the Master, I remember thinking he was a bit over the top, over exaggerated in Power of the Doctor, but seeing him here face off against the Doctor was actually my favorite part about the episode. And yeah, bringing in this lore change that the Doctor might have more lives than they remember, you kind of just buy into it at this point, which is sad, right? I wasn't like super like, oh, what are they doing? I was like, okay, I just kind of just accepted it. I just kind of bought into it. The show wants us to believe that the Doctor was originally a black girl, not a white man. It's a little bit ridiculous, but you just kind of just accept it at this point. And I will say my biggest complaint with this episode actually is that scene where the little girl is like play fighting with some other kid and like she falls off a cliff and like it's terribly green screen. She has no emotion on her face as she is falling. That is one of the worst edited scenes that I've ever seen in any television show. Like, what were they thinking? Feels like a joke seeing that scene. You guys know what I'm talking about. That moment really took me out of what I was watching and almost ruined the entire episode for me. Similar example is from the season before with the Rosa Parks episode. That episode was such a nail in the coffin. Like, nothing against Rosa Parks, the person. It's just the execution of that episode, especially the scene where Rosa Parks gets arrested and they're playing fucking sad pop music while she's getting arrested. It was one of the worst editing decisions I've ever seen. It made me cringe so hard. I hated that season. I hated that episode. But yeah, it was a pretty satisfying climax, satisfying ending. I had fun watching The Timeless Children. I wasn't expecting that. Sacha Dhawan also appeared in Adventure in Space and Time. I rewatched that like 3 times in the past year. Amazing movie. Really makes me cry. Is it David Bradley, is that his name? As William Hartnell. Seeing like the dedication and care that he put into the role really is a tearjerker for me. After 12 years since it's been released, amazing stuff. So after watching like several Jodie Whittaker episodes a couple of weeks ago, as I was trying to catch up with the Ncuti Gatwa era, I've only seen like a handful of Ncuti Gatwa episodes. Boom, I thought was a good episode. I liked it. I didn't finish 73 Yards, but I know what happens. Seems like a good, respectable story. I've seen a bit of Rogue. I don't want to finish it. I don't really care. The season 1 finale, I didn't finish it. I got to the part where like Sutekh reveals that he hid. Did he say that he was hiding on the TARDIS or inside the TARDIS? I felt like he said that he was hiding on the TARDIS and made himself invisible for all that time as the TARDIS was traveling. I feel like it would make more sense if he was hiding inside the TARDIS. Yeah, it's just very weird. But I was kind of enjoying that season finale. It had some okay tension building. I think Ruby is a pretty solid companion. I don't have too much of an opinion on Belinda. The only episode I watched of hers was Lux. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good. So from what I've seen, do I like the 15th Doctor more than the 13th Doctor? Sometimes he fits the role pretty well. It's interesting, he cries in like 2 of the episodes. Does he cry in more episodes? I know he cried in Boom. He cried in another one, I forget. But yeah, it's interesting to see how they're going with the characterization. I do sort of feel like Ncuti Gatwa feels a little bit young for the role. And rewatching 13, she can be a bit cringy at times, a bit hard to fit in for her into the role. Sometimes she is pretty good. I remember having the opinion back in her first season thinking that she really has like fragmented personality moments of like reminiscent of like the 5th Doctor, reminiscent of like the 11th Doctor. A lot of different doctors feel like they're impacting her performance and it's hard for her to find the right fitting. And maybe I feel sort of similarly to the 15th Doctor. Definitely 13, 14, and 15 are at the lower end if I was ranking the Doctors. I don't know if you'd even count 14 as a distinctive Doctor. It's basically the 10th Doctor again, pretty much. Nostalgia baiting. But yeah, that's Timeless Children. Didn't piss me off as much as I expected it to. I went over 5.5 years without watching it because I knew I wasn't gonna like how they were trying to destroy the canon. But it doesn't seem to really matter what the Doctor had multiple lives before. It almost implies that the Master could have been lying about that story for all we know. Doesn't really seem to impact a lot of the story. It just seems kind of unnecessary. Like, you think about back when Time of the Doctor came out, and they did that a little bit of lore building by having the Doctor getting granted another 13 cycles of regeneration, by the Time Lords giving the Doctor a whole new regeneration cycle. And I'm sure, like, fans at the time were like, that seems like a bit of a cop-out, seems kind of unnecessary for a plot device. I was fine with that, felt like an okay, reasonable plot device to keep the show going. Now, that shit feels kind of freaking meaningless, doesn't it? Like, even in Lie of the Land, where the 12th Doctor does a cop-out regeneration, like, does that count? It's like, the next time the Doctor gets granted a new regeneration cycle, there's gonna be a ton of expositionary dialogue explaining exactly what number regeneration the Doctor is on. It's absolutely ridiculous at this point. So yeah, I wish I could look back at the Whittaker era more fondly. I kind of respect the tone that they're going for at times. The world building and settings are pretty interesting at times. Acting can be a little cringe at times. And I like that from what I've seen of seasons 1 and 2 of the new RTD era, that they do change up the tone a bit, and it's a bit more distinct. So, let's talk about Hellbent. I got the idea for this video when I watched Stu Bagful's review of Timeless Children, and he was like, I'm not sure which one is worse, Hellbent or Timeless Children. And he said he liked Hellbent a little bit more. He's like, I had more fun with Hellbent. And I actually kinda have to disagree. Hellbent, when this came out, I remember this being pretty much the 3rd Doctor Who episode that I hated watching when it came out. The first one that I hated watching when it came out was Asylum of the Daleks. I haven't rewatched that episode in like 7 years, so don't really need to. The next one was Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar. Did not like that episode, still don't really. I feel like it demystified Skaro compared to the 60s version that we saw, and a lot of other small cringy things about that 2-parter. And then Hellbent's the 3rd one. And it's like, yeah, it's interesting. My opinion of Series 9, I really wanted to like this season more in the past 10 years, but I pretty much have the same opinion about it as when it came out. You kind of respect the darker tone, but a lot of aspects are very cringy. Particularly the sort of 12th Doctor's midlife crisis kind of story arc here. In this one, like, he saves Clara, he tries to stop Clara's moment of death, and doesn't care how that fixed point, changing that, how that is going to influence the rest of time. It's like a basic rule of time travel that you don't mess with history, right? And the Doctor just throws that out the window. This character, he would never do that. It's like Stephen Moffat like completely forgot who the Doctor was when he wrote this episode. And that's the biggest cringy thing about it. It's also one aspect of it being bad is when they bought back Gallifrey, and that was highly, highly anticipated for us fans for a long time, seeing Gallifrey again, and you got to see it kind of like interesting. It was getting interesting, like he's back at his home planet, there's like a crowd of people around him, he's eating a bowl of soup, then he faces off against Rassilon a little bit, and that's about it. That was probably the most entertaining part about the episode. And Stu Backfill brought up a good point in his review, is that Rassilon was way more interesting and way more impactful in the End of Time. End of Time, for years I used to be very hyped about that episode. Nowadays, in recent years, I think it's a bit cheesy. It feels a bit long, having to sit through the Doctor saying goodbye to all his friends again after all these rewatches. But I would like to remember a time when I was a kid watching End of Time and how good of an impact that had on me. And especially some reviews of End of Time have really pointed out how the dialogue does a good job explaining exposition, like between the Doctor and Wilfred, between the Doctor and Master. I will have to agree, it does a good job there. And so yeah, the Doctor not caring about changing history, saving Clara, when Heaven Sent, still one of the best episodes of modern Doctor Who, has such profound monologue moments, such an interesting message about time, about grief. Hellbent literally undoes any impact, any of the learning lessons that Heaven Sent was going for. It undoes all of that just for this stupid dramatic tension, whatever, this pulling up of sentimentality type strings. Hellbent is a piece of crap, and yeah, I had way more fun watching Timeless Children than I did Hellbent. I'm not sure if majority of fans will agree with my opinion that I think Timeless Children is better than Hellbent, but that is my definitive opinion there. Do fans generally consider Timeless Children a decent episode, like I thought it was pretty decent? I'm not really sure. Not sure if fans hate it. I was just thinking about how it kind of reminds me a little bit like Time Lash. Time Lash has always been considered one of the worst Doctor Who episodes, so I didn't watch it for years. And by the time I watched it, I was a big fan of the Sixth Doctor era. For the first 2-3 years of me being a fan of Doctor Who, the Sixth Doctor era was my least favorite when I was a kid. I thought it was too cheesy, too much of an asshole and stuff. And then I really grew a taste for it as I was watching more of the episodes, rewatching it throughout the years. First one I think I really appreciated was Vengeance on Varos when I watched that for the first time. Vengeance on Varos is still one of my top 5 favorite Doctor Who episodes of all time. Probably the worst Sixth Doctor episode to me is probably, I have to say, Mind Warp. I was never a fan of that episode. I find it very weird. And so yeah, when I finally got around to watching Time Lash several years ago, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I enjoyed the way it implemented H.G. Wells into the lore. I enjoyed the sort of world, but I enjoyed its references to astral projection. And at the end, where the Doctor is telling the Bull Rat that Perry will never find him attractive, it's kind of a profound Beauty and the Beast type theme, a message right there. I really appreciated Time Lash, and I rewatched it 5 or 6 times in the span of 2 years. Last time I rewatched it was 2024. It was a difficult day. I don't need to rewatch Time Lash again for a while because that day that I watched it was a difficult day in 2024, so it almost highlighted what most fans probably disliked about Time Lash. It kind of reinforces the cheesiness of the era. So yeah, I don't need to rewatch Time Lash again for a while. It might make me lose appreciation for it. Probably the same way I might feel about Timeless Children down the line. I watched it for the first time a couple weeks ago now. I don't know if I want to rewatch it again soon. I kind of feel like rewatching it again after 2 weeks, but I almost don't want to rewatch it because it might ruin the experience of first watching it. It's sad, bro. I really want to like the Whittaker era. I really want to like the Gatwa era, and I really for a long time wanted to love the Peter Capaldi era, bro. And Peter Capaldi was like my favorite Doctor after his first year. I still love Series 10. Is the inclusion of the Cybermen in Timeless Children better than the inclusion of the Cybermen in World Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls? No. Series 10 was so good. Series 10 was amazing. I like Series 8 a little bit less than I did at the time that it came out. I still feel the same way about Series 9. So yeah, Timeless Children wins. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching this edition of TV Fights. See you in the next one. I feel like for the next one, I almost want to review a Ncuti Gatwa episode, like the barbershop one, or Boom, or something, versus a Sherlock episode, because I was rewatching some of Sherlock. So yeah, maybe that might be the next video. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.